Welcome back to the Tourette Syndrome podcast. I'm Brittany Wolf.
And I am Janelle. And today we have a very special guest with us because every guest is a very special guest. Today we have Emma.
Hi.
How are you, Emma?
I'm doing good today. Didn't sleep much last night, but doing great now. I'm talking to you guys.
Yes, I love that. I love that so much. Brittany, do you want to kind of explain a bit about our new series that we're starting?
Yes. So, with Valentine's Day coming up, we thought we would do a couple special episodes. You might have seen it on our Instagram page where we were looking for new guests. We are going to be talking to a few different people. We're talking about dating with Tourette syndrome. We'll talk to a couple with that's in a relationship where both of them actually have Tourette syndrome. And then we'll be talking to a couple with marriage, which is actually me and my husband via Janelle's request. It's
So
not just me being
excited.
like, it's going to be me.
Y'all, I'm
But
so excited.
so we're gonna get the whole spectrum here, and just because this is a big thing that comes up for a lot of people with Tourette syndrome, myself included, growing up, and still sometimes, even though my husband has never made me feel any type of way, I still have that fear in the back of my mind that one day he's just gonna be like, "Yeah, this is not for me. Bye." So today we're starting with Emma, which I'm very excited. I'm sure a lot of you listening to our podcast have followed Emma for quite some time. She is an amazing advocate. So I'm really excited to speak with her today about some of that. So, Emma, if you just want to give a background for whoever has been living under a rock and not watching your advocacy videos, go ahead and do that.
No, hey, thank you for the, very honorable introduction. No, I mean, I've been around in the Tourette syndrome and tic disorder community space on the internet for, I guess, like over 13 years now, because originally when I was, quite young, I started a Life's a Twitch blog. And then not long after that, it became a YouTube channel because I was using Blogspot and I was like, kids my age don't freaking read. So let me.
I didn't realize you started on a blog too. So did I. I started with blogs first.
Wait, you did too? I didn't know about yours either. Because I remember, so way back in the day, on YouTube, it was like me and Brittany on YouTube, and there were maybe a couple of other Tourette's YouTubers I didn't know a ton about, at the time at least. But like, it was like our own little island of Tourette's syndrome awareness.
Translation, that means that she's an OG YouTuber.
Yeah.
Yes.
OG YouTuber. Yes.
That's where we are. That's the space. But other than that, I mean, like, I'm Emma. If you know me from the internet, probably know me as Life's a Twitch Emma. Been doing advocacy on the internet and outside of the internet for over a decade. I currently live in North Carolina, but I'm moving to New York soon, hopefully permanently. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I mean that there's, love interacting with other people in the community. It's my favorite thing ever. Love going to events, love meeting more people, and never shutting up about Tourette syndrome. So
I feel that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And yeah, I feel like, again, like you have been a person that a lot of people, can't speak for everybody, obviously, because everybody's kind of at a different place in their journey or where they start. But I feel like you've probably helped out a lot of people that were, trying to figure out things about Tourette syndrome, trying to find, like-minded people or people that are dealing with the same thing. And you've had videos from, again, way back when, where you're like educating people on things about Tourette's, even not just like surface level things. Like you're like, let's talk about the difference between like clonic and dystonic tics, like even things like that. Like I'm like, yes,
like that's the thing.
So I love that
always,
so much.
Yeah, I've always loved like I don't like because I studied psychology in college, but like even before that, I don't know. Like I was always into just the research side and just knowing literally everything about it, kind of keeping up with stuff. So, and then all those like sort of more intricate topics are things that have always interested me. So yeah, and then also, I feel like people are gonna watch this and they're like, I've never heard of Life's a Twitch Emma, and they're making a big deal about it. So I want to acknowledge, I know there's a lot of people in the Generation Alpha that have no idea who I am.
That's okay. And they're gonna watch this or listen to this and get to know you now. So either way it works out. Okay, so yes, again, as Brittany said, we're starting a series on, I guess, relationships or dating with TS, which is super, at least for me, has been definitely a thing that's been on my mind because I feel like dating's already hard enough. The dating pool is already difficult enough. And then you add on having a disability like Tourette
Mhm.
syndrome on top of it. Like, how do you? I have so many questions. I can't, I can't wait to dive in. What is your, I guess we can start with, what has your overall experience been like with dating or trying to
Yeah,
date while
that's a good
having
over
Tourette
first
syndrome?
one.
No, I think that is a good question. Also, before even saying that, I just want to acknowledge that me and Chanel talk about dating
Yes,
constantly.
all the time.
Okay,
I've heard
but
some of
here's
Janelle's stories, so I can't even imagine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah, well, here's the thing. So overall my dating experience has been varied. Mostly good kind of thing, but going into so like Janelle puts herself out there. I do not. So I
I
think
try.
there's
I
just
have to
different.
try.
Like I there was a period of time here. How do you know how far back I go? So if we go like if we're talking about overall, things have been like I said varied.
Hmm.
There have been some good times. I've been engaged before. Like there,
Oh,
it's been
I didn't
all
know that.
around. Oh
I just
yeah,
learned that like a few months ago when we were on the train in November.
yeah, that was it happened.
Hmm.
But like obviously I'm not married now, so and we're still on great terms. I think you two probably know who it is.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but like, okay, if we're talking about like first boyfriend ever, middle school. All right,
Hmm.
I was diagnosed with Tourette since about 5 years old, so like I dealt with tics through all that time. Like, I didn't have a ton of trouble with it in that aspect, except
Hmm.
for like some like specific things that were just really bad in different instances. Whenever I had a boyfriend, things seemed to be good because like you can't really be my significant other without accepting my Tourette's kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But to go to current day, I don't. Like a year or two ago. Well, I guess okay. I had a boyfriend last year, and then
Hmm.
year before that, I tried out the app a little bit,
Mm.
and I haven't tried out the apps again since then because
It's okay. It's trash.
yeah, no, this is what Janelle like. It's like
I have
yeah.
screenshots. I have many screenshots.
Yeah. And so I think that like I would love to get back into it. And there's a lot that goes into it, Tourette's, that I'm so excited to talk about. But going into this, I don't put in the effort.
That's okay. I mean, you're focused on a lot of other things right now, and that's fine.
Right. And it
Yeah.
has to be a tiring effort
Yeah.
to go through it all and figure it out. Like I'm thankful all the time. Like I just got out by like a cusp of the dating app thing. Because in my mind, I don't even know what I would do. I don't even know if I know how to flirt to begin with. So I don't even know how I got Scott number one. Because I don't even know if I'm flirting at the time that it's happening.
Hmm.
But the dating app world just sounds atrocious. But at the same time, what else do you do now?
I mean, well, so there's the thing is that the last boyfriend I had, I met in person. But that like doesn't happen very often now. I think
Right.
Right.
when you're our age, as in, above school age, um adults.
Hmm.
You don't have school to go to. You don't have like if you have curriculars, it's kind of like it's not the same as it was when you were younger. You
Right.
have work. And then
Hmm.
outside of that, like it's very hard to meet people. So I understand, especially in like the digital age of like everyone getting into the apps and stuff. I so something that I think is interesting to talk about with like Tourette's and apps is I know people who will like put it on their profile.
Hmm.
That was a
That's what I was
question
gonna.
I had for
Yeah,
you to
that's what I was
see
gonna
if
ask.
Oh my
yep,
gosh, okay.
we're
Yes,
all
so
on
we
the
can get
I
same
into
never
it.
did.
same wavelength.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I never did and it's not because I was like, someone is gonna see this and then be like, I don't want to match with her. Because like, okay, that's a great way to weed out people, I guess.
Hmm.
But it's because like I didn't feel like I needed to, and then usually it just ended up working into the conversation
Yeah.
anyway. And I've also heard from people who do have it in their bios. Like I've heard from people who do have it in their bios and seen like screenshots of their conversations where people like harass them about it. So like they just
Uh-huh.
match with them to harass them about it. So I'm
Yeah.
like,
Or
What?
fetishize it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I don't know why that never even, probably because like I just subconsciously hoped that that wouldn't happen, but that blows my, people.
Well, you haven't had to really think about it like in that way, I guess.
for online dating, yeah. Yeah, like then
Oh,
it's like the only thing they want to talk about. And it's like, okay, well,
I mean,
how about you? What do you like to do? And this is like
right. I mean, it does
lost
make
in.
sense for some of the inappropriate comments and questions that I get
Yeah.
sometimes on my videos. So I don't know why I never
Mhm.
put that together. That's
Yes.
also probably where it happens. I guess I'm naive to it, I will say, and ignorant in a naive way to it.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
okay. Now you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I think too. So, because the thing is, you're right. Like, it's not just confined to the dating apps. Because, like, I have had one of the bad experiences was someone that I didn't necessarily date, but I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd say romantically involved with.
Yeah.
And he made it seem like Tourette's was one of like the coolest things about me, and like he was like, oh wow, like but not in like a good way, in like a
Yeah.
toxic, like weird, almost towards that.
Fetishized way. Yeah.
Yeah, like it, yeah. So those things will happen, and then people will be super uneducated, and then I almost feel like not putting it in the dating profile gives me more of like I don't know what to say. It's like an upper hand on providing that education, working into a conversation organically in a
Mm-hmm.
way that like I feel like working in like because I work in marketing and communications sphere and like like knowing just and I study psychology, like I feel like oh, this is just the thing. Like, I feel like doing things organically and authentically is a better way for people to learn.
Mhm.
Well, and then you get their authentic reaction too. You don't see,
Yeah.
I guess, because this makes a good point. Because I think about it, I'm like, man, if I did that, I feel like I would put it on my dating profile. But you get that reaction. You don't get that reaction, is what I'm trying to say, actually.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's part of it. And I've always kind of I've always said like Tourette syndrome, not that I've had a ton of boyfriends. I was never the girl people were like, oh my God, look at me. But before Scott, like that was where it was kind of like for me like a red flag indicator of how they would react when I would tell them.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
now that you bring that up, that's really interesting because I think I like that better to see.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like if they react necessarily bad at first, and it's kind of how they recover from that, depending on what they say at first.
No, and but I do because like I will say because I don't want to like crap on people who do put that in
Right,
their
of
profiles.
course.
I don't know you guys aren't either, but it's like I get that some people will be like, okay, you want to have that up front, and
Yeah, it
I
just
just
depends.
feel
Yeah,
like yeah.
it just depends on, I guess, your experience, how your ticks may present. Sometimes it might be, I don't know, I want to say easier or harder to hide. I mean, again, you shouldn't be hiding it, but like I feel like I could get to a first date without even mentioning it. And I just kind of like slightly gaslight the person. Like I might tick and they're like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, what do you mean?
Okay, that's a great. I kind of almost want to ask you, John. So, because we've talked about these kinds of things within our non-married dating world. Um, so do you not tell people? Because like when I was on the apps, I would usually work it into the conversations in like organically, but in the conversation beforehand. Because like it's like okay, I have a YouTube. Oh, what's it about?
Yeah.
Like like. So do
Okay.
you go on dates and not tell people before, kind of thing?
Well, also I've not really gone on that many dates. So that's one of the things. There's been a time that I've tried to work it into the conversation, but I feel like I don't know. I don't know. This might just be my experience, but I feel like whenever you are at least just specifically for online dating in the chatting stage, how do I say this? Things once you get on a certain topic,
Yeah.
like, oh haha, you try to skirt around it. It seems like they don't want to talk about anything else.
Mm.
Okay, so
And
you're
so
saying
I fear that will also happen with like kind of like what you're talking about, like with Tourette's. Like if I start bringing that up, then they're not gonna want to talk about anything else. Because anything else they
okay.
talk about, like, oh yeah, I do this at work. Well, how does your Tourette's affect your work? Oh, okay, da da da. Oh, I like to, hang out with my friends. Or what do your friends think? Like it's just gonna always be the central focus topic, like many other things guys often like to talk about.
Oh,
And I'm like,
okay.
once the conversation goes there, it doesn't want to go anywhere else. And I feel
So
the same could
okay,
happen
I
with Tourette's.
see. In
So
your experience, it's like bringing it up kind of opens a floodgate for you, kind of thing.
yes,
Okay.
but I mean, there's like, I mean, I guess I could try and see for the next one whenever somebody responds. Because I mean, there is a way that I could work it in. Like, when people ask, like, "Oh, what do you do for work?" And I'll say, like, "Oh, I'm a disability advocate," which I do for work. But I don't know. Yeah, I just feel like they typically just fixate on that one thing. Or with the reality of dating apps is then they just stop responding.
Yeah,
Whether they're interested or not, they just stop responding.
no,
So
I get that because I think for like we talk about as advocates, like disclosure in all different types of spaces, like disclosure in a workplace, disclosure at school, and like how there's different tools and stuff for that. And I think that like just like anywhere else, like in the dating world, in the dating realm, like disclosure is so personalized to what you're comfortable with.
right.
And then what you'd like to disclose, how you'd like to disclose, if you disclose in a relationship, I feel, especially if you want it to be long term, it's not really an if, it has to be.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Like I said, this is like a first date type of thing. Like,
Yes.
I need to get to know the person for who they are before, like, I feel like obviously if I had gotten to the second or third date phase, then yeah, obviously I would bring it up instead of like,
oh yeah,
studying
no,
people.
but I mean, like that's the thing is, it's like so it gets to be so individualized, or it should be so individualized of like whatever you feel most comfortable with, and then sometimes it's like it's not always the same thing with each person you go on a date with,
Right.
or what like you might feel out what that is, but personally, I don't know, like I'm trying to think about these like hinge dates I went on over a year ago now when because they were both times it worked into the conversation when I went on dates with these people because there were only two people that I actually like ever met up with in person off of Hinge and it didn't like one of them I only went on like one or two dates with and it didn't even go into the conversation much but at least they had like an idea of what was going on when I was ticking and stuff and then the other person I saw quite a few more times and it was like a normal like part of the conversation and then they ended up learning more about it kind of thing.
That's good.
But I don't know, yeah, I think that like disclosure is such an interesting topic too because it can look so different for different people.
Right. It's such a personal decision too.
Yeah.
Because people have asked me like, well, how are you so like good with like putting it out there? I'm like, it's just kind of what I've always done. So I grew up doing that.
So that would be Brittany if she's on dating apps.
That
would be Brittany. And I probably would. Like when I first met Scott, not to get too into that, so I don't take away from ours or you. Like I told him right away. But when I met Scott, I could tell that I really like there was just something there. Like I really liked him from the second I met him. And I'm like, all right, before my head gets too attached, let's just put this out there. I have trust. What are your thoughts? I mean, I'm sure I said it differently than that. I didn't just sit there and be like,
I like that though. I like that.
This is actually an interview and you need to answer everything correctly. But I don't know. It's such a personal decision and it's such a comfort or not comfort level. Because most of the time I disclose right away, but there's been jobs where I didn't find that fluid moment. Like if I bring it back to jobs, like to bring it up. Because I like to bring it up as casually as possible because in my experience people accept it more casually that way. And so if I don't find that opening where I feel comfortable, then I'm also going to probably stumble over my words and be like, oh well, I have this thing and it's called Tourette syndrome, but anyway.
I do think too, like there's a lot of external factors that go into like disclosure that I feel like impact it too and I'm trying to just like honestly I'm literally thinking about how I think about this as I talk about it, but like with a job, like there's a lot more riding on the line when you like disclose your disability.
Right.
With a relationship, I mean like there could be something riding on the line, but like, I mean like who cares not who cares if you lose your relationship because like but like
it doesn't hold as much weight.
Right, especially a brand new, like I just met this guy, like okay, I never see him again, whatever,
versus a job you really want. And
it's like thank goodness that he's leaving now. Good riddance. I mean, like,
thank you. Next.
Like, but I don't know. Because also I think I just in general, like some of what Janelle and I talk about with the dating apps and hearing your story, Janelle, I'm like, I've considered like, okay, maybe when I move to New York, I'll go back into the apps. And then like I don't want to like go into your side
That's
of it,
fine.
but I just
It's
like
gonna happen.
no, I don't. I'm excited to talk about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it. A lot of times it'll be like, why would I even want to put energy into this? I almost like being friends with someone first,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
so much more because it's just more organic.
Yeah.
Like, we keep saying that word, but like it is like, and it works better. You get to know someone more without pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Janelle, if you want to talk a little bit about like your because I keep bringing up the apps kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, is
I
there
think it's
one
good to talk about because I mean this is
Yeah,
like the
that's
main
fine. Is
part of
there
the
one in
episode. So yeah.
specific that you are thinking of in your brain, or is just? I mean, we could get into it. I don't know. I don't know if this. Yeah, I don't know.
No,
If
no,
we,
I don't want to tell your stories, and because I know that I know a lot of your stuff.
yes.
And I just think like it's all really interesting and going into in especially So I won't say anything
Yes, that's
specific,
fine.
but I
Okay,
mean,
okay. So, and I'll also share this because this is something that I was thinking about while we were
mhm.
talking. I feel like they're like, again, dating is already like so hard. Dealing with the dating pool is already so hard. And then when you have a disability on top of that, or anything else like that is part of like your intersectionality, can make it even more complicated. Like I feel like most of the because again, I haven't necessarily disclosed right up front on my profile. I don't think all the issues and things I'm dealing with are because of Tourette syndrome. I think some of the issues and things I'm dealing with maybe is because of plus size, and like that's a factor in dating too. But
Yeah.
then that's also probably why I'm like, there's several reasons. Again, I'm not saying nobody can, put it on their profile. If you want to do that, that's cool. But for me, there's several reasons I don't. Also, I don't know if somebody reads it, they're gonna have one assumption in their head of what that looks like, and
Right.
then not even take the time to sit and want to be educated. Um, but anyways, yeah, I've had I've had interesting situations where people like I had one guy who his profile picture on the dating app was a mugshot, and he was like in jail for 25 and a half. He had like 25 and a half years for like
Mm.
aggravated battery and assault with intention of harm or something like that.
What a way to lead.
I feel
Yeah,
like you
and
shouldn't
then
even be allowed on a dating app.
and then he's like, I'm a nice guy though, and like wanted to just, yeah, I guess have pen pals while he's in prison. But I was like, no, thank you.
Wait, he was on it while he was in
Oh, but it
prison
was.
Yeah, yeah,
actively?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Honestly, I get the pen pal thing. Maybe not from like a dating perspective, though.
Right. I
I
don't
have
know.
so many more
You
questions
know?
that you wouldn't be able to answer. Like, how did he get on a dating app in prison?
I
How did he
don't.
get to do this? Is this a
I.
secretive phone? Like, but that's just my like
That's a
true
great
crime
question.
brain poking
Yeah,
out that you don't have the
I
answers
don't
to.
know.
But I'm just like, oh my
Yeah, I've had, let me see, other situations. I'm trying to think. There's so many, like where people have just made like rude comments or, you know, inappropriate comments off the bat, like where you'd be like, what happened to hi, hello, how are you?
Yeah.
right.
I've had, I don't know how much I want to get into it because this is like a family-friendly podcast, but
No, I get
for
that.
the
Yeah.
adults, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, Whatever you're imagining, it's that plus
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
I've had people be mad that I didn't want to meet up with them. Like I'm like the first thing they wanted to do was meet up, and I'm like, I don't really know you, so I'd like to like
Yeah.
chat and get to know you. And then they're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like that's just a waste of time. How are you gonna get to know somebody if you don't meet them in person and get to know their vibe and da da da? And I'm like, what?
I feel like the vibe's coming out a little bit right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
and I feel like
yeah,
yeah, there's like a sense of, especially, I know, okay, I'm gonna say it exclusively with men, that
yeah,
they have a sense of entitlement
yeah,
on dating apps that they shouldn't, where like they think they're owed things. And okay, maybe there's women that I haven't come across that, like this that
yeah.
sense of entitlement of like,
Right.
oh, you owe me this, we haven't
Hmm.
even met kind of thing. And then you pile on having a disability like Tourette syndrome or another tic disorder onto that, and they like, I feel, and I haven't come across this. Well, maybe in like a smaller instance, but like they might feel like more entitled to like more specific and personal information
Hmm.
about your Tourette syndrome than you would like to share. And I have experienced that in small ways, not in like anything, huge within the dating apps, but again, like it's been a while since I've been on them.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to that thing too so all of my relationships, well, let me make sure this is a correct statement.
That's fine. Take your time.
No, I think almost all my relationships started as friendship. Like all my long-term relationships that I've had, romantic relationships in my life started with friendships. And then like that's also, not only is that like just like what I am used to with romantic relationships, it's also just like how I know how to do things and how I know how to like, how those things go about. And I feel like I was saying before, like it's a great thing for a foundation for a relationship. And then like they know about your Tourette's and your tics and like they get it anyway. They have experience. They bring stuff to they bring time to the portfolio of experiencing your tic repertoire and learning about it. But then you get to adulthood where, okay, all the friends I've known for over a decade, I'm not dating them. And then like, it's hard for me to make friends as an adult, let alone find so then to make friends, to then build that basis or to do the whole like dating, it's all just tough.
I feel that.
Anyway, but do you guys want to hear about one of my really bad exes?
Yes. Sure. And whatever you would like to share and helping people out, yes.
I said, just because I brought this up before, I did like a dating video years ago where I talked about this, and I don't know, like, I think it's good to talk about because, especially when you're like younger and like for younger people to hear about who have like Tourette syndrome and are going through relationships with people, to get insight into, because at the time, I think I was 19. I was in college, and I, not to, ding younger Emma, but like she did have more trouble with her self-confidence and self-worth and sense of self just in general than like Emma, I'm going to say almost 10 years later does. So I think that just going into relationships already, I didn't have a great, like, you want to have your sense of self. You need to have an individual to bring to it. Sorry, I'm mixing together like 10 different sayings. I want to say it
That's
once.
okay.
You're fine.
A relationship is two individuals, and then I always look at it as like, when you're in a relationship, you need to remain those individuals to bring to that couple, that pair, because if you start to lose your individuals, then there's nothing to be in the pair. So when you lose that, then there's nothing left there together. So you need to maintain that. I didn't always think that way. I didn't even always know to think that way.
That's great. I'm sorry. I'm holding space for that comment. Because I love that, and the visual, that was just so perfect, because I feel like a lot of people lose that when they get into a relationship where they're just like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter, and I'm just like you, you're just like me, we're twins.
And I think people don't and so like for me, I'll say for me, I didn't realize that was what was happening to me in relationships for a bit. And so, okay, I've had all great exes. Well, I'll say good exes. I had all at least good exes except for one.
Except for this one, yeah.
This one, yeah, because there is a Tourette syndrome element that comes into this one. And overall, he was just, he was a bad guy. So, yeah, because I'm honestly, I would even say like good terms, at the very least good terms with everyone else, even if I don't talk to a lot of like certain ones, but like, still good terms. This guy, I'm trying to think if I want to have like a code word. We'll call him B, as in like, I don't know, boy.
Okay.
But so B and I were like kind of friends for a little bit, and then like started a relationship. And he was like sweet. I'm not gonna like make this like super dark or anything, because there are some dark elements to it, but he was super sweet for a while and like kind of like brought me in. But I could tell that like I used to have an anxious attachment style, and he was like manipulating me in further, and like trying to like withhold things from me. He was abusive. Like he was emotionally and mentally, and then one or two times physically abusive. So over the course of this relationship, and where I really think like when I've told people this, they're like, oh, I would have broken up with him then and there when this happened. But like one time,
It's easy to say that when you're not in it, though.
Right.
that's exactly what I'm saying. Is that like because like there's a reason abusive relationships exist. Like
Right.
power dynamic. Like if I think it's honestly a pretty ignorant thing to say. Like, oh, I would have done that when I would have just left him in this abusive relationship, because then it doesn't acknowledge that there's a power dynamic in abusive relationships, and a reason that they even if like that didn't happen, then there just wouldn't be abusive relationships.
Right.
But like, so one time, he knew I had, because I've had my YouTube forever. He knew about my YouTube. He had, I think at this point, even been on it. That video is long gone now. But like, he knew that I advocated for Tourette syndrome, and then all like co-occurring conditions. Talk about this stuff all the time. And he said to me, he sent me this article. It's like Psychology Today article or something. And it had something to do with addiction of some sort. And he was like, "This is why I don't believe in this mental health stuff." And I was like, "Do you know who you're talking to?" First of all,
right?
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like super red flag. But at the time, like I was so, and I didn't even realize at the time I was so small, feeling so like I was reduced to like this, and he had taken up all of this. And I know we're on a podcast, and some people will not be watching with, but my visual is small.
Yes, tiny versus large. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Videos will be available on YouTube for anybody that wants to see the.
I love visuals.
The visuals along with the words.
Yeah, but that was one that, among other, again, I'm not gonna get into like some of the like really bad, horrible stuff, but there was this like, so he would sleep over at my apartment in college, and you can tell when I talk about him, sometimes this tick gets triggered when I talk to like my other friends. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, only talk about anything that you're comfortable with. If you're getting uncomfortable, please don't.
Trust me, I know. I would never talk about it.
Okay. I felt the need to put it out there. I didn't want you to talk about something.
Oh, it's all good. And this stuff I've all talked about in other parts of the internet anyway. So the tick that I'm doing that it kind of triggers when I talk about him is my ab tensing tick. Because he would sleep over.
So awful.
Oh, I know. Oh, trust me. Oh my god. Yeah. Great. I mean, and I don't even have a six pack, so
me either. Right? It's annoying.
It's so rude.
I know it. But he would sleep over, and I was very clear to him, like, if you put your hand on this part of my body, it triggers my ticks. And then he knew, as this happened countless times, like when he does that in the middle of the night, when if like, it wakes me up at all, then, and I feel that it will trigger a bunch of ticking. It'll trigger that tick happening a lot. And then
like as soon as you wake up.
Yeah. I mean, like if I wake up and I feel it on me, which would happen in the middle of the night. And I honest to God think that he would like intentionally move so that I would wake up and then this would happen. Because also I'm like, I have insomnia. I'm a bit of a light sleeper. So it doesn't take time.
Yeah.
So wake me up in the middle of the night, and I've already asked him. He's very clear. He knows this is the exact part of my body he's not supposed to touch that triggers the ticks. And he would do that over and over again. And I would wake up in the middle of the night. And then I know you guys know, like when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're ticking a bunch, and then like if you like the ticks have woken up, like you're up.
Yes.
For a while.
Now it's like restarting the cycle all over.
And
again.
I feel like that's a good way to go into a tick attack right when you wake up too, because it's alarming when you tick that quickly after your eyes open.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, especially when it's the middle of the night. I'm not even supposed to be awake yet. Like, so, and he knows all these things. These things have been explained to him. I mean, he's witnessed me having tick attacks because he does all this, and then he would continue to do it. I think that it also, like me not getting enough sleep made makes your critical thinking worse.
Right.
And he was already abusive to me in other ways. So it ended up being, I mean, I don't know if he was thinking this very specifically, but like, it helped keep me small. And it helped keep me like, it
helped give him more control because you already live with this thing that takes away control. And so it was his way of like taking even more of that, in my opinion, like, just from a brief, like, and I feel like I don't know, just like my friend and just TS community anger is tingling through my body.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I feel like Jonna was feeling the same way because I noticed that her and I were both like, it's
like, oh my god, I'm like a fist ball.
No, I know that's a good way to put it too. I really admire the way you just put that, because I've never even like verbalize in that way of like I do, you're right, I do deal with something that I can't control and take so much control. And then he, as a controlling and manipulative human being, was taking even more control from me. And no wonder, you know, my sense of self that wasn't already fully, because 19 years old. I mean, like, you're an adult at that point, but you're a new adult, and your sense of self, at least for me, was like still developing.
Like a newborn adult.
You're a newborn adult, like it's
you're in the toddler stages of adulthood.
Yes, and you're also like new to adult relationships, and new to like so new to so many things, and yeah, I mean, don't want to be all doom and gloom, but like I think it's important to talk about, because I think especially a lot of young people, I've had like younger people like at certain events like talk to me and ask me advice, because I've given presentations about like Tourette syndrome and dating and stuff, and they'll ask me advice about like certain things with relationships, and I feel I end up a lot of times when they're telling me about like some boy or some girl or whoever, the way that things have gone, how they don't accept certain things about them, yada yada. One of the first things I ask them is, do you like them?
Oh.
Because I think because, and here's the thing, is that like I think like a lot of times the answer is yes, right? But like when you hear about all those things, like, okay, hear about all the things that you know, the guy, my ex-boyfriend did to me, and the way that he treated me in general, when you list it out, it's like, wow, he sucked, you know? And this is if you like step back from that and really think about that. And I feel I've seen that with other people in the Tourette syndrome and tic disorder community, like having all these bad experiences, and they like really like the idea of this person, or like who they were before they realized that they weren't down for, you know, them as
or who they hoped they were going to be.
Yes. And I'd like to give a big warning of that, like, you know, it's not going to be the last fish in the sea. It's not going to, you know, and even if it is, okay, like, well, you know what I mean, but it's not going to be, especially when you're yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's important to talk about, is like, self-confidence is important.
Versus are you just tolerating them because you feel like they chose you?
Yeah, or like, I think especially in an abusive relationship, it's like, it's not even a question that you have to stay with them in your mind, because you're being manipulative and you're in the power dynamic. So sorry, heavy way to start the
it's very important, because I didn't think about how that can play into emotional abuse and stuff like that, because I would say like trying to trigger somebody's tics like that, even if you do it more than once after somebody told you like, hey, don't do that, that makes me uncomfortable, it makes
crossing
me tick.
boundaries.
That's crossing a major boundary, especially in lives of people like us. Like, I can't, and it's easy, I think, at the beginning, especially when you're young, but also at the beginning, because, you know, that's when all of the emotions are flowing, that's when it's exciting, and it's like, oh, it was just like a little thing, like, we can move past this. And that can be, I think, how it grows into a harder place to walk away from.
Yes. And I think, you know, another important thing like to note within that experience is that, like, you know, I get it when someone, especially like if it's a friend or someone you barely know and it's their first time that they accidentally trigger a tick, and then you explain it to them, right? Like, yeah, like someone needs to learn to know what not to do, especially like with something that they don't experience themselves, like tics. But when it's someone that has been told repeatedly, and on top of that is supposed to be not only someone that you are close to, but are close to romantically, so you're supposed to trust them, and then like intimately, like, you know, trust them, like, that's extra messed up, especially when it is becoming intentional. And I just see, like, I just hate that for young people. Like, you get so wrapped up in other parts of like, oh, but they're so funny and they're so this, or, you know, even because even if it's not like how my relationship was like deeply like, there's some dark stuff, even if it's like more of like a, like, you know, abuse that like is harder to detect with it when, you know, it's still like, that's bad. Like,
even just crossing boundaries that you have, even if it's not physical, or like, even if it doesn't go into the realms of quote unquote abuse, and I only use quotes because that can be different for each person too. But
Mhm.
you repeatedly crossing a boundary that you have made very clear is not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even just thinking of the concepts to add to the layers of this, of
Yeah.
like somebody doing that, like you already let him know to not do that. He
Mhm.
knows that it triggers your tics, and then on top of that, he's doing that while you're asleep when you're like the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like where you're supposed to be
No.
finally at rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't.
Absolutely. And also like with the thing that Brittany was saying about like already, you deal with a life where you can't control your body and
Mhm.
then taking away more control. Same thing with like autonomy. Like it's just, yeah, it's messed up.
Yes.
But I mean, okay, like that's all important stuff, a little bit doom and gloom, but like I have also had relationships that are like really great.
Yeah.
Where it's not like Tourette's is the best thing about me and it's fetishized, and it's not like it's like, oh, I don't even believe in that mental health stuff. Where it's
Yeah.
the not be too horrible extreme ends.
Extremes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good
It's in
though.
that nice little happy medium middle ground.
Where it's
Yes.
just another aspect of you.
Yes. And I think that's important too, like um for when you're in a relationship for like to sorry, not in, past the first date, like when you're in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you always like keep Tourette syndrome part of the conversation. Not in every conversation, but you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
as you're going on, like to have like check-ins about things,
Yeah.
whether that is like, okay, when a tick attack happens, like to not only educate your partner about it, but also just like to keep them up to date with what you need, because that changes
Right.
Yeah.
over time. And I know Brittany, you are probably very much a pro at this because you and your husband have been together for so long. But like
Long
that
time.
whole, I'm sure you guys have to talk about like, this is what I need now. That may be different
Mm-hmm.
from what I needed before.
Right.
I think it's a very important thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he'll ask like each time, like, what do you need me to do? Like, what
Yeah.
can I do? Can I do
Mhm.
anything? And or sometimes like, so I have like this elbow slamming, like I have to hit the
Mhm.
back of things or my armrests and stuff. And I'll do it sometimes on very hard surfaces. And he'll ask, like, do you need me to like block? Like, or will that make it worse? Like I like that he thinks about that. Because
Yeah.
he
Yes.
remembers that I say like my ticks have to feel a certain way for it to be
Mhm.
complete, and he's just trying to help so I don't hurt myself. But then he also recognizes that that might make it worse, and that unfortunately hurting myself is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Otherwise, it will get worse. Because like he'll try to like put his arm there. He's like, "Is that helping or no?" And sometimes it does. Because sometimes the couch is not hard enough, so it's not feeling the way
Yeah.
I need it to feel. So I'm like,
No, I get
"Yeah,
that.
but I'm gonna do this a lot harder now. Just FYI."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I get that.
So,
Yeah,
but it
that
is
is
stuff changes, and different ticks need sometimes different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to say attention, but because I don't necessarily, because it's not like every time I tick, he's like, "Oh my god, do you need me to stop it?" Because that would
Yeah.
not work. But
Right.
just like when it's starting to get bad, and just that little like, you're right, like, and it's
Mm-hmm.
quiet. He always makes sure, like, if it's especially public, like it's a quiet one, like not
Yeah.
ringing attention, just like, yeah, right. Or I just feel his arm. Like I tick a lot when we go to Cavs games, and I think it's just the overstimulation. And
Oh,
so
one
I just
day,
feel his
maybe one day.
I just
Anyways.
feel like his arm, like he'll just set his hand on my leg.
Yeah.
And that's just like his silent way of like, hey, like I'm noticing, but I'm here.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Not
that's
like, oh my God, are you okay?
Yeah.
yeah.
Can I do anything?
Bringing extra attention with
Right.
Right. There's like that line. And it's
He's
also just,
attentive.
yes. And just like disclosure and stuff, it is different for everybody. Some
Yeah.
people might not want even that. And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why you want to be able to talk about, like you
Mhm.
said, you want it to be able to still come up in conversation and be a part of your lives, because it is. At the end of the day, it's something that you live with, and it is a factor in your relationship too. And
Mhm.
it's something that you have to work through together and make sure that you can work through it together. And I'm not saying like you have to make sure that you're perfectly okay with yourself all the time because you're taking before you can date. That's not what I mean. It's just that it
Yeah.
is something that I think has to be discussed at some point.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's a good point to make too, because I think a lot of people, like, the RuPaul quote, you gotta love yourself first before you can love anyone else. I think that, like, you don't have to have it all figured out.
Yes.
Like, you know, it's great to love yourself. You should love yourself. You should find the way to authentically love yourself and learn to love yourself. But I think that, like, if you wait until you have everything figured out in that sense, then you haven't, like, tried out relationships.
Yeah.
And, like, gotten to know what you like or don't like in those, in that way, if you have even the, you know, the option kind of thing. But I said it because, like, I had a lot of relationships before I felt like I got to a place where I was like, oh, I love, because I think I genuinely didn't fully, like, I didn't realize this before, but I think I fully didn't ever fully, like, actually love myself and have, like, a close to, not, like, fully, you know, like, until I was, like, 25, which is not going to be everyone's experience, but I felt like
I don't think I have until literally mid to last year.
Yeah. It's like these sailing.
I'm still working on it. So everybody's at a different spot, and I'm about to be 30. So
well, and you have to work on it forever, I think.
Yeah.
Like, you have to maintain it, right? Like, I think, but, like, I had, and when I was 25, I had, like, very salient moments where I was like, oh my gosh, like, wait, I get it now, of, like, this is what it means to love yourself. So I say all that to be like, you know, you don't have to have it figured out when you start dating, but it is something that you do, like, it is good to work on, because then it helps, you know, within every aspect of life.
Right.
Yes.
And now, Janelle, I'm thinking that you need to come visit me in New York, and we need to go, like, on singles something. Like, you know what
I
want to hear all about it if this happens.
This year I'm trying to like not necessarily go out more, but, like, in public, you know, like, trying to, like, be outside more. Because
I guess people are more.
Yeah, I guess we probably could have explained this a little bit more earlier, but because not everybody obviously gets, like, I know there's a lot of people that will always say, like, why are people these days not, like, wanting to meet people out, like, in person, you know, or, like, you know, go to the bar, meet a person. Why is it only on, like, apps? And I feel like it's because when people meet in person, like at a bar or something, it's because they're only wanting one thing for the night, and that's it. If you're not looking for that, then that's not really a thing. Or people don't want to approach each other in person.
It's also a scary world now, and it's only getting scarier. And so I would see why, like, I would be terrified. I remember my friend, they're now married, so great, and he's a wonderful guy. And I'm not going to say name just because I don't even think they listen to this. But anyway, she's a wonderful friend of mine. We went to their wedding last year, and they came over one night, and we were, like, playing games or whatever. But he was telling us about it, and he was talking about how ridiculous it was because when they first met, she had him come over. I'm like, I almost forgot her name. For purposes, I'll use my name. I was like, Brittany, what are you thinking? And he goes, he's like,
that's not
right.
safe.
He's like, I could have killed her or something. I'm like, it's like, it all worked out. We're fine now. She's like, we're about, because at the time they weren't married yet. She's like, we're about to get married. I'm like, right, but
thank God. You got
do you not just listen to any, like, I watch true crime stories too much, like literally, like last night, like I'll get to a point in my life every once in a while, just sidebar, where I start feeling myself more anxious and, like, a little more, like, I don't know, want to say jumpy, but, like, more on edge. And last night, like, my thoughts kept going to weird things, and I almost felt myself, like, going into some sketchy dreams, and I'm like, okay, it's time for a pause again. It's time for, like, a week break from all of this. And this morning, though, right away, I'm like, oh, what's this documentary on Hulu? But, like, that's my first thought. And that would be my first thought. And I feel like it would be so crippling for me to meet people. Because even if you meet them organically outside, you still know.
Or, like, I don't know. It just is tougher because the places that you do go and do things, like, it could also, I don't know, potentially jeopardize other things. Like, if you're meeting somebody at work, it's kind of harder and more complicated with HR. And if somebody's going to get promoted and be in a position of power or whatever. So it's like, that's probably a no. You know, like, I don't know, if you meet somebody we're volunteering at and then y'all get in some type of disagreement or break up, then the organization might not have one or both of y'all there. Like, I don't know. There's so many factors.
Like, I think that's why it's also nice to, like, if you are meeting people organically, like, I'm not going places, like, I'm not going, okay, well, first of all, I don't drink. Over a year sober now. But I don't
take a moment to celebrate that, because that's big.
Moment of celebration. But I like even if I'll go to bars with my friends who are drinking and I'll get a Shirley Temple. Love a Shirley Temple. Or just a Diet Coke to stay up. But I'm not gonna go to a bar alone at all. Like I think that's something people used to be able to do. But now it's just like as a woman, no.
Yeah, and then if you're with friends, then people don't want to approach you because they're intimidated by the group of friends you're with. Like,
yeah. Or even if you're like in the park with, you know, a group of friends, or really if you're in a park by yourself and it's like, okay, like because I do that a lot in New York. Like I'll go run around, but I'm not gonna go talk to a stranger during that time because I'm alone. Like I don't like no thanks, and especially not to like give someone my number. Like then they can further like, you know, like that's a struggle. So that's why, Janelle, I'm gonna need you to move to the city with me.
to do that.
Yeah.
I can't. You're
I
so
don't
funny.
think Janelle will appreciate the temperatures of the Northeast.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like we have like a major cold warning here in Ohio that's starting at like 2 a.m. tonight into tomorrow. Like real feel is like negative 20.
Over 100 in the summer. It's disgusting. You know, for me,
it is. I've been to New York 12, 13, 14 times. That's not an exaggeration. I have family that's there, and I used to go every year. And the only thing that's different, because people are like, "Oh, well, it's hot," so you're used to it because it's hot in where you're at in Texas. And I'm like, yes, but we have central AC. Y'all don't. Your buildings are made to keep heat in from the cold, which keeps the heat in when it's hot.
We have some good air conditioning in Ohio, Janelle, if you want to move here. Like my house is nice and chilly in the summer.
You don't need a wingman. You don't need a wingman, whatever.
I need a hype woman though. So my sad days, Janelle's just kicking me back up.
No, that's a good point.
I'll happily be anybody's hype woman anytime. Just let me know. Hit me up, message me.
And you know what, Janelle? Let's think about one more thing with this: is that there's 8 million people just in New York City.
That is true. Higher chances. I was thinking about this while we're talking. I do have another question. This might be for somebody that might be experiencing the same thing, and if not, it's just for me, and that's cool. I want to know. Either of you can answer this question. Yeah. Because I know, Brittany, like you've mentioned this before. That's why I'm bringing this up. I know, obviously, like if you're with somebody in a relationship, like it's kind of different because they understand your Tourette's to a degree, and they've kind of got you. But when you're trying to date, sometimes it's difficult. When I feel like I have maybe like an influx in a lot of like facial tics, and then I don't know, at least for me, sometimes it starts to affect like my confidence or like my view of myself because I'm like, oh, like I don't like that this thing is making me make these weird or ugly faces, and then now I feel ugly, and you spiral. And
then you go down. Do it more because you're self-conscious about it.
Yeah, and so it's just like, oh my gosh, like I mean, I'm sure like our tics have made us do some interesting things or say or some interesting things or look a certain way, and I don't know, like I'm like, if I have issues like with this, then how is somebody else gonna accept this and deal with this? I don't know, like what do you guys do on those days where you're more bummed out? Yeah, like I'm like, this is not attractive in any way. Like I'm furrowing my eyebrows, I'm like rolling my eyes like what? Or I'm like moving my mouth a certain way. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
No, I mean I like plenty of my tics make me look what I think are like ugly. I think in the dating realm, it's honest. Okay. Yes, that affects me a bit, but I think that at the end of the day, like if I'm like having a good conversation with someone, like I'll get like I won't worry about it as much. Here's the thing,
focus.
Yes, but there are tics that it's not exactly me looking ugly, but still lead to other embarrassing things.
Yeah, that too.
Yes. Okay. Because I bring this up the reason I'm stumbling a bit is because I was recently talking to an unnamed person who's also in the TS and TIC disorder community about this, and they told me they're like that you are someone who will know how to bring this up, and I said I don't know, but I know this is all. So there are certain tics that happen with like certain muscles, maybe in lower areas that may lead to other things happening to where maybe I have accidentally, because of certain muscles contracting as a tic, both peed myself or passed gas.
Yeah.
And and this is family friendly, so I don't know, but I think we can all know what kind of tic this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have them, and it's very interesting because I've never been able to describe. I've never felt. I'm like, I don't even know how to go about explaining.
Yes, but
this.
when you like, when that to me has happened a lot in like first days of classes when I get triggered the most, and that or even like in a early on in a romantic, you know, experiences, that in that sense, that almost bothers me more. Not like of those kinds of embarrassing things. Of like, oh, I really don't want this to happen, so now I'm like letting out a little bit of heat on accident, or now I'm like farting on this date or in this hangout or whatever, like because I can't like control it. Which is a little bit different, I think, than Janelle, what you were asking.
Well, I mean, it's all encompassed. Like, there's things that, yeah, it's embarrassing or makes you feel ugly or makes you, whether you feel like you look ugly or just feel ugly in general.
Yeah,
it's all part of it. Yeah, the tough days.
Yeah, no, I guess it is. Yeah, because it is still at the end of it, it's like, oh yeah, I feel weird about this thing. So like, yeah, and it's hard, those things are like hard to be confident about, because I think a lot of times when you're confident about something, and I feel this way with like a lot of other ticks, like I feel self-confident and like I'm like, okay, whatever, like, you know, like this tick is happening, it is what it is. But then with ticks like that, like what we're talking about here, I still struggle very, very much with being like, I'm not confident about me pitching myself from this pit. Like, it's hard to get there. So I definitely, to answer the question along, like, yes, like totally get that. And I think you're right. Like, I agree with what you're saying. Like, it's hard to get someone else to be okay with it when you're not okay with it. Like,
or feel like I'm attractive. I'm a potential. I'm a great potential.
It's vulnerable.
Yeah,
you know, like the vulnerable thing. So I get that.
I always thought of it as like, my thing on very similar grounds was, mine is, well, if I annoy myself half the time with these ticks, how am I not going to annoy somebody else? And now, don't get me wrong, because like on the other time, like, you know, my videos always say, I'm like, if it's annoying you, it's going to annoy me a million times worse. So deal with it. But in a relationship standpoint, there is that fear that comes in, especially if you're really into this person and you're falling in love with them, or you are in love with them, and all of a sudden, like, there is that fear of it. Once again, not to sound dramatic, but of it all coming crashing down, because they were okay with it at first, and now all of a sudden they're like, now this is too much. I was okay with it when I thought it was just these like little things. Now I've seen a tick attack for the first time, and I actually can't deal with it now. Or,
but I will say, Brittany, let's think about this. For you, I mean, and I'm saying, because I'm not just saying just for you, I'm saying like also I had a great relationship that was years long, and I would have similar kind of thoughts. Did that ever happen? Because with Scott, that hasn't happened. With my relationship, it ended for a different reason. It was 4 years of that, like, had some thoughts like that, but it never once did my partner at the time like say, oh, this is too much. Oh, this is annoying me. Oh, I've seen you have tick attacks like a lot more, you know, during this period, or like experience this, and I don't. You know, I think like it's very valid. They're very valid fears, in that like it's valid that you're feeling them, like to feel that way. But then like I think, you know, just it's important for other people to hear too, is like, okay, yeah, like totally that's a normal anxiety, but like that hasn't been the case with the right person. And again, the relationship I had, obviously, like that ended, and that's not the right, but it was like, you know, they were right in that.
Not because of Tourette's.
Right. No, that's a really good point, because it hasn't ever happened. And I think, believe in like my heart of hearts, like I don't see that ever happening. But you know, when it gets bad, or like when I had like 2023, it was rough for me. And those fears, those burden thoughts in my head were strong. I was crying in my therapist's office, like thinking, I'm like, this is going to be the time. Like, if there was any time that he was going to leave me, it will be this. And so I think those fears are very, like you said, the feelings of them are very valid. I think we all probably have them at one point or another, whether it's that we think we aren't attractive when we tick, which, you know, I am not a confident person when it comes to my looks. Never have been. I don't know if I ever will be. Maybe some days
I think you're hot. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, you're
wonderful every once in a while, but most of the time it's not there. But I think those fears are there on some level. And I'm really glad you asked that, Janelle, because I literally had that written down as a question that I wanted to ask. But I do want to, and especially because I know we are coming up a little bit on time, I want to make sure that we end on a positive if we
Yes.
can. Emma, what good things do you think Tourette syndrome adds into a relationship? What do you think like
Ooh.
is different about us that we bring to the table because we have
Mhm.
Tourette syndrome? Or any
Yeah.
other positivity? Because
Yeah, and trying
I
to
think
date.
it's important to talk about both. I think it's very important that we talk about
Yes.
all the other things. I think
Yeah.
that's probably top of mind for most people
Mhm.
dating with Tourette syndrome or disability.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that they end with not thinking like, man, we all
Oh,
feel this
yeah.
way. And
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
we're all
No.
just, you know.
I
Yeah,
can't.
that's why I'm like, yeah, I'm like, let me try not to be too doom, because, like, again, you know, not too doom and gloom, because there have been so many great experiences that I've had with, you know, being a Tourettic person and being in relationships. But I would say the number one, kind of like how we were talking about, referring back to earlier in the episode, the whole idea of disclosure and how that looks different for different people. So I think that having Tourette syndrome when it brings to relationships is a great way to weed out ableists.
That's
Ooh.
true.
Like people
That's
who are
true.
not worth your time.
Mhm.
And then that's kind of like a funny, lighthearted answer, but it's also like for sure true.
Right.
Yeah.
Other than that, I would think that like so some of the best people I know in the entire world that are the most creative, innovative, resilient, just strong overall, are people who have Tourette syndrome or another tic disorder. So I think that like just you know neurodivergency with all of its challenges and all of the struggles and obstacles that it brings you know I think what I've seen in other people and in myself builds like a person who can get through a lot and who is you know bright and creative a
Absolutely.
lot of times and smart and funny I don't know like I
Yeah,
think there's a
very
lot of
funny.
things
Mhm.
very funny so I think there's a lot of things that like going through a lot, I hate to say it this way, but like having to go through a lot of hard times um has built me up and a lot of other people who experience tics up to like be the person that they are and bring like a great person to the table. I think also last one that I'll say that I think is great with, you know, being with Tourette syndrome in a relationship is that like I feel like we're a lot less judgmental and really understanding.
That's
Um
true.
and I think yeah, like I think it's just I don't know, like I feel like people like that and I like that. I don't know,
Yeah.
like
I feel like it lets them almost loosen up a bit. It's like, look at everything that I do. Nothing you do is gonna shock me.
Yeah.
Like I used to do Dutch jumps when I was a child uncontrollably. All right, you tripped over something. I might laugh at you, but we're cool.
Yeah.
yeah. Like I don't know, there's just I don't know, people with threats are cool, so
Yeah, I think it brings to, and I don't mean this in a bedroom kind of way. I mean this like I think it brings a level of intimacy that you wouldn't get elsewhere
Yeah.
because you
yes.
have to have a certain level of it, I think, to make that relationship work, to meet people at the table. And then, you know, more than ever, like you said, like we're not judgmental. I think we're also empathetic to realizing bad days can come out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the acceptance of that is really good. Like, cause I can like bad moments can come out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
that can be something that we see and understand more. Cause like I can be perfectly fine for years. And then I have a really bad day, which turns into a really bad month or a really bad year, whatever it might be. And I
Yeah.
think it brings something to us that allows us to move through those hard situations in a different way.
Yeah. I mean having a dynamic disability leads to an understanding of the dynamic nature of a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah, dynamic feelings, dynamic
Exactly.
emotions, and like, and I feed off of emotions a lot. I'm also a heart on my sleeve kind of person.
Ugh, I am too,
But
and I hate it.
and I
Just
think too
sensitive,
though,
and I
like
hate it.
I
That's a
think
different
Tourette
story.
syndrome doesn't allow me not to be. Like it calls me out. Because if I'm uncomfortable, my tics are gonna start coming out.
Yeah.
Like I was at something one time with Scott. It was like a work thing for him, and there was a woman at the table that was just over the top.
Mm.
Like at one point in this conversation, this woman said that Channing Tatum and his wife invited her to dinner one time, but she was just like, no thanks. I'm just like,
Okay.
all right. I
And
don't
she
even
was
remember
just
how
like
it came
lying.
up, but I was ticking a lot at the table. And the one other people that we were with, the couple, like the woman's cop works with and her husband, he asked me afterwards because he knows I have Tourette syndrome. He's like, I have to ask you. He's like, when you're like uncomfortable, and he goes in, he's like, I hope you're okay. I'm like, just ask, like, you're fine. He's like, do you tick more? And I'm like, oh, absolutely. He's like, I knew it. He's like, I told so and so. He's like, that woman was making her uncomfortable and it was making her tick more. And I'm like, you are very, very accurate. I was like, and then you two left and went to a different table. He's like, oh, I know.
Oh my gosh, that's so
He said
funny.
I can't take it either.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So, I think I get called out by my ticks or
Yeah. It's like a
all
tell.
the time. So you're gonna know, like, I'm not gonna be the person that's able to be like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah, you're an open book that's just can't be closed, you know? Yeah.
I like that.
For real.
I like that.
For real.
I like that a lot.
Janelle,
Yes.
what do you think? What do you think is a positive thing?
A positive thing about having Tourette's and what I can bring to the table in dating?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
You've got a lot of them.
Yes, you
You're so
do.
kind. I'm just waiting for somebody to recognize that.
No,
I guess.
it's their fault. Honestly, from the people
Yes.
who tell me about it's their fault.
Yes.
Honestly.
I mean, yeah. I mean, because the people I've come across, it's like, if you're gonna be mad that I don't want to hang out with you when we haven't even talked, then I'm
Right.
okay.
I'm just waiting for you to be able to tell us a meet cute story. You were at the dog park with Tux and this other guy's dog. And so then he already loves dogs, which, for me, it's like major plus. So, I'm just waiting for that meet cute story to come up.
Yes. I'm waiting as well. I almost had one when I tripped over the rock, and then the guy came and
I
helped me.
remember that. I remember
It was just
that.
an intro. It was a warm up.
Yeah,
the real thing
it didn't work out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, I think maybe a positive or extra thing I have, it's a benefit to bring to relationships. I don't know if it's necessarily simply because of my Tourette's or because I've just always been an empathetic person. It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Type of thing. But I mean, I'm really, I guess, understanding of people if they need like, I want to say like accommodations on things, but I mean, like, like if you're going on a date with somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I really want to do like a super loud or crowded restaurant because da da da, and then I can't hear you over the music. I'm like, understandable. And I feel like other people probably be like, okay, like you think you're too good for this and that, and it's like my brain doesn't even go there. Like I'm just like, okay, like you don't know why people prefer or don't prefer something, like if they have sensory needs or any other issues or bad memories from that place or whatever, And I think I'm more understanding of that.
Yeah.
And my brain goes to like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like an accommodation, cool. And then tries to like come up with a solution for something else.
Right. I think that goes into like the judgmental thing too. Like, not to judge, like, because we have stuff going on that we don't like. Like, I can't be in a room with people chewing on food.
Yeah.
I can't. I will lose my ever living mind.
Yeah.
Misophonia type stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I can understand where like catch myself if I'm like, well, why would you think that way? Like, wait a minute, Renee, you freak out if somebody chews a piece of food in your ear. Like, so it gives you that like non-judgmental, like that not reality check, but kind of like to check yourself and be like, all right, that actually makes sense. Like, I wouldn't want to be pushed to do something that makes me uncomfortable. So
yeah, I think another thing too that I see in Janelle, and then I see really in like a lot of.
You're so kind. I was not expecting that.
But you deserve the world. So, and I think a lot of people in the Tourette syndrome community also that I see is passion, like being very passionate about something. I think even if someone with Tourette's, it's not like, like Janelle, you're really passionate about helping people with disabilities, like with accommodations and then like advocacy at the Tourette syndrome level, but also disability level as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think that other people have like passions about other things too, even if it's not specifically about advocacy. Like people with Tourette's always have something that they're like super passionate about and super into. And I think that people are very, are very into like, well, that's not the word, but I mean, like people love that. Like, and I think like rightfully so. So I think that's another thing that's very.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
I would have to agree wholeheartedly.
No, thank you. Y'all are so kind. Yeah.
Whatever we can take from this is date someone with Tourette's.
Yes.
Exactly. We're out there. It
1 in
is
50
not
of
as
us.
rare as
Just,
people think.
we're around.
Exactly. It is not as rare as people think. For sure. So, I mean, I feel like a lot of this conversation applies to people with disabilities in general as well.
Yes.
So if y'all are listening to this and you're like, ooh, like my friend would appreciate this, then you like send it to them or whatever. Because
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like I have a friend that has like a rare form of dystonia, which is like a movement disorder, and we talk about a lot of similarities we have, even though obviously it's different than Tourette syndrome. Like there's a lot of similarities that come with it, as well as in dating. So we've talked about that before too. But yeah, send it to whoever you think could benefit from it, even if they don't have a disability. You never know. If they're a person that is potentially dating, send it because they might come in contact with somebody who has a disability and is also dating.
Right.
So yeah, we appreciate that. We appreciate you, Emma, so much for coming on. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you guys. I love you both so much.
Yes. Would you like to
Feeling
share your like where people could find you?
Oh yeah.
How they could well not contact you, but you know, if they want, I don't know. It's up to you. Where they can find
Yeah,
you,
no.
follow you, YouTube and stuff.
Totally. Yeah. No, I mean, it's life's a Twitch Emma across most things. You know, TikTok went bye a matter of hours ago, so no longer
it might be
there.
back by the time this is up, so you never know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then if if it's,
I don't even know if people are going to be on
social.
social media.
There's
a lot going on.
In the meantime, YouTube is Life's a Twitch Emma. Instagram is Life's a Twitch Emma. Facebook is, I think, Life's a Twitch or Life's a Twitch. But the main ones that I use, you can find me most of the time on Instagram.
If you just type in Life's a Twitch, yeah.
Yeah, type in Life's a Twitch, and you've got me. So yeah, it's the pun I came up with over a decade ago.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yeah,
and we're
thank
excited
you for being here.
Yes, like I said, this is a series, a 3-part series, so this is the first of the 3. So hopefully you tune in for the other 2 as well.
Yeah,
See you
tune
guys next
in.
time. Yes.
Thank
See you
you
guys next time.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to our Valentine's Day dating specials. If you want to hear more about how you can navigate and disclose about Tourette syndrome, you can tune in to the Tourette Association's webinar that'll be premiering on March 18th at 7 p.m., Navigating, Dating, and Disclosure for Adults. And as always, go to Tourette.org to check out all of their information that they have to help you with your life and navigating through Tourette syndrome and other chronic tic disorders.